here's a quick assembly guide on how to assemble your Turbo Ace Matrix kit. So before we start, let's go over the contents of what comes with your Turbo Ace Matrix kit. So you can notice here we have three main frame plates. We have the bottom, the middle, and the top layer. You also get four 40 amp brushless speed controls. You get miscellaneous screws, washers, a foldable GPS mount. You get a power distribution cable. You get straps to mount your battery, zip ties to tighten up your wires. You get these three decks here, which is going to be your isolation deck when you're mounting your camera, for example a GoPro. You get carbon fiber landing legs. You get the leg mounts. You get some more screws. You get four heavy duty aluminum motor mounts, and you also get four brushless speed controls. So let's start with the first process. So before you assemble, what you want to do is unbag all the parts, have it all laid out. Each major component will have a bag of screws and accessories along with the main components, so be careful and do not mix up the screws and posts when you're building it. Some tools and accessories that you may need to aid with the build is a hex driver set. The Matrix uses a 2.5mm and a 3mm hex driver. You may also need to get pliers, diagonal cutters, or a 6mm box wrench to aid with cutting wires and holding the post when you build. And you'll also need medium strength thread locker. For example, we're using here is the blue color Loctite. So let's locate the first part when we're assembling the build. You want to locate the bottom layer of the main frame. You want to locate 22 15mm standoff posts, and you also want to locate 22 M3, or these are actually 3x5mm screws. So take one screw, actually, let's start off here. Take your 3mm hex driver, take your M3 screw, take your thread locker, always shake your bottle really well to mix all the contents inside. Apply a blob of Loctite to the first three sections, or three parts of the thread area right here. You want to put it through the frame. I like to start with the front. It just makes it a lot easier on navigating all the way down. As you can see here, you want to install the 15mm post. And since we have a 6mm box wrench, you're going to use that to hold the post as we're tightening down. And there you go. And once you have one down, you want to do the other 21 posts going all the way from the front to the back. And we have one over here that's already pre-assembled. You can see you have 11 on each side. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. And once you have all of those posts and screws mounted, remember, use Loctite on any screws that goes into metal to metal. Now you want to move on to the next process, is you want to locate your four brushless speed controls. Pay attention to the label side. This is where your heatsink area is, and you want to have it face down on the center of the holes. Your bottom frame has 8 different ESC mounting locations that you can see here, these rectangular box. We like to use the first 4 in the front. There's really no right or wrong way to use it. We just like to use the 4 in the front because it makes tightening up the wires a lot easier. So put it like this for now. And now you want to come over here and locate your aluminum arms along with the brushless motors and also the screw pack that comes with the motor. The screw motors will actually be 2.5mm screws. You want to locate a screw, a lock washer, and then a flat washer when you're assembling this process right over here. So once again, screw, lock washer, and washer. Notice there's two sides of the boom. One side's going to be flat side and one side has a beveled edge along with a 10mm center hole right here. This is going to be where the motor mounts to, and you also have 4 different holes for the motor screws. We like to use the 2 outer ones right here as it provides more torque and more leverage when you're tying down the motor. So locate a 2.5mm hex driver like so. And for this process, you would not have to use thread locker or blue Loctite just because we have a lock washer that's included with this kit. So here we go. What you might want to do to help with the aid is to feed the wires through the boom. Sometimes the edges of these booms can be sharp just from the manufacturing process, so what you might want to do is take a flat file or some sandpaper and just smooth up the inside a little bit to prevent any sharp edges from cutting the insulation of the wires. So feed the wires through. Alright, let's get along here. Now that you feed the wires through, you just want to go over here and then line up the motor holes with the motor, as you can see here. Install the screw. Once you have one in, you want to repeat the one for the inside, which has a cutout right over here. Sometimes you may have to just kind of use another tool and slide the wire over to get access to that screw hole. And once you have that screw installed, your motor and arm assembly will look just like here. One thing you might want to do is, if you have a heat gun in handy, you can heat up the heat shrink and the wire around here. Just kind of take the heat gun and just warm it up. Do not hold the heat in one area for too long. Just kind of move it over to soften up the wire. You can actually mold the wire over inside the arm and make it look a lot cleaner, as you can see here. So once you have that installed, complete the rest for the other four, or the other three arms. Now, take your wire protector gauge, guard right here. You want to move the wires to the left side of the boom like so. Locate this. This screw will be facing the right hand side and down. Now push it over like so. Just make sure it goes on in without pinching any wires, and you push it all the way in. And what this wire protector guard does is it protects the wires when you have the 3mm mounting arm screws installed, so that way it's no longer going to cut the wire. So once you have the other three completed, let's go over to what the assemble process will actually look like, the final one that we have pre-assembled right over here. So once you have that done, you want to make sure that you have all four booms with the motors facing up, so that way when you install the middle plate, the arms will not be sideways or upside down. Make sure the motors are facing up, as you can see here on this pre-assembled modular kit over here. You see here we have 4 speed controls with the power distribution cable already installed. And one thing you may want to do is you want to make sure that you have the red on the speed control wires. We have the red is going to be the positive, and the black is going to be the ground, or black, or a negative. You want to have black with black, red with red. And once you have all those plugged in, we use clear heat shrink just to isolate the polarities. Sometimes the connectors can be loose and you can actually short them out. So just put some insulation and cover up these connectors when you're done. And also that prevents the wires from pulling out as you're assembling and doing other stuff like that. And also notice here the polarity of the wires. Since we're using the Naza flight controller, the motors for motor 1, 2, 3, and 4, they actually spin counterclockwise, clockwise, and then for our setup, we have, you can see here, black will always be in the middle of these 4 speed controls. The yellow would be the inward positions, as you can see here, and the red is going to be the outer position. And always follow your flight controller's manual on which way the motor is supposed to spin, and if your motor is spinning the wrong direction for any reason, simply unplug any 2 wires and you flip it around, and that will reverse the motor direction. Also, you may also want to do the throttle endpoint calibration. Just follow our other video, which we're going to post up later, on how to properly calibrate your ESCs for your radio transmitter. Also notice here how we have the wire laid out. Use the included zip ties to tighten up the wires. You can see here. Once again, you want to make sure that your wires are not overlapping. You can see here we have a wire that's over the post. Be careful and do not have your wire like this, because if you have it like this and when you install the top plate on, these wires will get punctured and they can short out and burn out your speed control or motor. So carefully lay them out like so. Notice how you have your 2 screw holes. Your motor will be mounted like this. Once you have it laid out, just make sure, move the motors a few times. Make sure the wire is not too tight or too loose that can actually rip or get cut with something else. You can see here, we use wire mesh to tighten up the wires, make it look a little bit neater as we're going through the frame. Your power distribution cable. And also you can see here the 4 bullet connectors, or we have the ground over here and the positive in the middle. It just makes the wires a little bit cleaner. Once again, make sure the wires are not overlapping the post, so that way when you install it, the wires will not get punctured or tear. You can see here, we have the ESC wires coming from the back all the way to the front, and then we loop it around and we use zip ties to hold these two wires together so that way it doesn't pop up, and you can see here, it just loops around over this post. And at the same time, double check to make sure the wires are not tight. Give it a full range of movement right here. Make sure that this wire is not too tight or too loose, as it can get cut or get caught on something else if your wire is too tight or too loose. So now that you have that installed, let's go into the middle plate. We have one that's already assembled. You can see here. Locate your middle plate. You're going to get this rubber grommet that you install in the middle section. Just pop it in place. Sometimes if you're working in a really cold area, these grommets can be a little bit stiff. Take a hair dryer or boil some hot water, dip it in there, and these would get soft really quick. Pop it in, and you also get a foldable GPS mount. Now this is optional if you want to install it or not. If you're using a nozzle flight controller, you just simply glue on the carbon fiber rod inside this hole. You can see it's foldable. So if you're going to use the GPS mount, you can see over here on the side of this frame, just put it right over here, you can notice on the left side has a slot cut out. This slot is going to be where this piece, the threaded section of the screw, will go down. You also get this cool looking GPS guide that you mount like so. Pick this up and you mount it in. Now, one thing you may want to pay attention to is which direction the GPS antenna folding mechanism folds to. We like ours to be folding a little bit outwards like so, so when you fold the GPS, it actually folds over the arm and not into any section, so you get a full complete 90-degree fold down. Once you have that done, you want to come over here, locate the screw, the washer, and the nut that comes with it, and just tighten down. And once you're finished, it will look very similar to what we have here. Rubber grommet, the foldable GPS mount, as you can see here. So now, let's install this middle plate onto the bottom plate. You want to take your ESC connectors right here. This is what goes to your flight controller. You want to feed it through the rubber grommet. You may also want to feed additional wires. For example, right over here we have a small JST wire, and we also have a XT60 connector along with a XT90. The XT90 will be your main battery connector. These two over here, the JST and the XT60, can be your accessory wires. For example, your flight controller can hook up to here, or you can have a flight controller hooked to here, or a brushless gimbal or FPV gear, depending on what you want to do. You have two additional power hookup. So let's feed this one through. And just for this demonstration, we're just going to leave these facing out. Now, you want to feed this through like so. Carefully observe which way your motors are going. Make sure that there's no wires at the same time. Make sure there's no wires that's being punctured or getting caught between any post and carbon plate. Now, you want to locate the screws that comes with this middle plate. You can see we have additional screws. They're M3 screws. And you also get some 20 millimeter standoff post. You want to take here. The post will actually go here. Tighten it down. You want to find the bottom. Tighten it down like so. And in case you guys have any questions on where exactly these aluminum posts go, it's very simple. Locate your top layer for now. You can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So lay them out and you get a general idea of where these posts will actually go. You see one more right over here. And you have one at the very edge right here. And at the same time, remember to use blue or medium strength thread locker on these screws when you're tying down any screws that goes into metal to metal. Like so. You also have one more in the rear. And now you want to complete the process all the way back. And now once you have the 5 screws over here, the 5 standoff posts, you want to complete the other process for the other side.